Welcome everyone, it's Sherry Carroll for SimonsSaysStamp.com, and I have something a little bit different for our Did You Know series where I'm going to show you something really cool that you can do to create your own custom watercolor pens. SimonsSaysStamp.com carries two pen types, so we have the fine detail on the left and then the medium tip on the right. And these are empty watercolor barrels that you can fill with your solutions. For my first pen, I'm using Speckled Egg Distress Reinker, and I'm just going to squeeze that little rubber stopper at the end to grab some of the ink. And once I have that barrel full, I can place it right into the tip of the open barrel of my water brush pen. Then I'll recap that reinker real quick before I cause any problems. And then I can cap off my watercolor brush with the lid, and I'm going to make sure I get this on really nice and tight. If you take a look on the barrel of your pen, it has two places where you're going to want to push, and it is titled push. So one of the first things I want to do is to give it a little bit of a squeeze and watch the ink come down the barrel. You can see it start to come through, and I also want to break up those fibers of the brush tip. So I'm starting to see it come through to the bottom, and with a little more pressure I can start to see it come into the brush. So I'm going to keep squeezing until I have that brush completely covered with the ink. You can also do the same thing using your Tim Holtz Distress Spray Stains, and this is a little bit thinner liquid than your reinkers, and how I want to work with this is to remove the spray nozzle, and then I'll get a pipette and squeeze the bulb top on that to grab some of that ink, and then I just squeeze that right into the barrel. And I place my pipettes in water so I can clean them out to use it another time. Next, I'll replace the cap, and I want to make sure I get this on nice and tight, and then recap my spray stain. The spray stain moves down into the barrel quite easily, and I can start to see where that color is filling out that tip of the barrel. Then I can break up the tip of that pen to have a nice flow of the ink. For a quick sample, I have stamped my background with Simons Says Stamp VersaFine Nocturne ink, and then I clear embossed it with the Simons Says Stamp Clair embossing powder. And what this does is this gives me little valleys and mountains so I can get the watercolor right in between the lines of my designs. And I did use the Tim Holtz watercolor cardstock for this. So I'm going to start off by painting with my new Speckled Egg watercolor brush. I can go around the edges and just right up to that embossing mark. I can also use a water pen with just plain water, and I can go around some of these edges and smooth out my color. And for my bolder color, I'm going to color in the complete flower petal with picked raspberry until I get that completely filled in, and then I can go back in with just the plain water to lighten up the centers of the flower and give them a little more depth and dimension. When you're done doing your painting, make sure that you close the lid completely until it snaps in place. And I would store these laying on their sides so that the ink doesn't flood the brush tip. This is a really handy way to have your watercolors at the ready, especially if you don't have time to paint the whole piece in one setting. So I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial on how to customize your watercolor pens using the Tim Holtz Distress Spray Stains and Reinkers. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. I do have some supplies listed in the description box below. Have a great day, and I'll catch you next time.
Hi there, I'm Heidi, Simon's mama and founder at SimonsSaysStamp.com. Thank you so much for watching our video. If you like what you just saw, be sure to press the thumbs up and subscribe to see more great content.